Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're going to go over 10 stocks that I'm watching throughout 2023. The first one I want to touch on is FSLR, also known as First Solar. It has extremely outperformed the market this year, and since 2020, it has gone on a 329% move up, and it's been consolidating within this channel for quite some time, pretty much a decade at this point, since April of 2012. You can see we are back to the highs at this point. Okay, so if we continue to follow suit with trend, the probability is we run the middle of the lows. Okay, which would put us right around this $60 mark, and even if we roll back to support, puts us back down to around the $58 mark throughout 2023. This is more so probably the beginning of 2024 target down there. So I'll be honest, I do think at minimum we see FSLR revisit the $96 level. Okay, at minimum I think we revisit this level here. If I take it off just a line chart, you can see there's a gap to fill here. But we have a lot of reaction around this zone, here. So which is around that 96 to $90 level. So 99.90, big range there. Something to keep an eye on for FSLR. If the market goes bearish, you have potential for about a 40% down move throughout 2023 on this name. So keep it on FSLR. It's one I've been talking about for quite some time. It does run in the solar type of sector. So my current thought on solar right now is solar is working its way down to revisit the end of the bull flag before it breaks out potentially in the future. So, solar at the current moment could very well go through a 30% drawdown, which FSLR should get some of that move down as well. Another stock that you want to keep on watch is Deere. Okay, is Deere. At this moment, Deere is working on a broadening formation. So if Deere can push back to the 480s by middle of next year, I anticipate this to be a great short entry over the next 12 to 16 months to revisit these new lows for the broadening formation. So it would not surprise me if we're bull flagging right here for one more push up to here, and then we come back, revisit the 240 level leading into 2024. Once again, XLI is one of the sectors I'm watching for the most downside throughout 2023, and I think Deere could very well be one of those leaders alongside Caterpillar. Okay, I'll give you a little extra stock pick here for you. But Caterpillar is working on potentially trying to break out here. If it can, great. Then it has potential to run. If it can't, then we very well could see something similar where it comes down to revisit the 150s, 160s level by year end. Okay, so my primary focus is Deere, but Caterpillar is something else to keep on watch leading into this next year. Next is URA. This is uranium. Once again, I touched on this in the Preston's Playbook video, but this has gone through 6 years of consolidation. It's working on a bull flag. The technical target for uranium would be $42 of this bull flag breakout. But if we take the equal legs target from the all-time low to the top of the range, that puts us back to the $65 level. So, some really good upside here over the next 3, 4, 5 years on uranium. So this is a play that's setting up for the next few years, but something I'm watching this year if we do get that push down to around $16 leading into this next year. Next stock is PANW. So PANW, once again, is a cybersecurity play. And as you know, I target gap fills. It's one of my favorite type of plays. You can see this has put in a rounded top formation, and the gap to fill is down about 36% from current levels. If we are to find the equal legs target from this breakdown, we clone this, take it from here to here, it puts you right around the $93 level, around $94 there. Okay, so minimum target 93.20, longer term target looking around 87 to 89 on PANW. This has been one of the strongest stocks in the entire market, and it looks like it's finally starting its leg down as it starts to reject that 200 SMA to the downside, just as we've talked about a lot on stream. You started to see this reject consistently, so any move back up that continues to reject the 200 SMA very well could push to the downside of around $89 to $87. Okay. Next is a trade desk. Very similar setup. Okay, very similar setup. You have a rounded top, just like we have with PANW. And on the daily, you can see that our next targeted support is 27, but we have a gap to fill at $24 as well. So I do expect some heavy pressure on this name this year as well. If we start to break under the $39 level, I will be targeting the $27 level on this name over the next 3, 4, 5 months, which again is another 30% to the downside. The next stock I want to talk about is Mercado Libre. This is once again another great strong growth name, but it is putting in a bearish pennant. Okay, a bearish pennant. Historically, these do this, and they target fresh lows. Okay, the next level of true support for this name is around the 418 level, which would once again be the potential of a 56% move down. This could take a year to a year and a half, but if this does break down, this could be a great swing trade to the downside. If we zoom in on the daily, you can see that we have a gap to fill here around the 373 level as well. So this is our previous support. Our previous resistance turned to support. If we break through that, we have our gap to fill at 377. So keep an eye on Mercado Libre. This is one of my favorite setups leading into this next year, especially if this pennant does break down. Next on the list is Ford. Short term, Ford did put in a hammer candle, so we could see a shorter term move up. But just like we have seen, we are putting in a topping formation. This is what we call a inverted cup and handle. If you are to break under the 1041 level, it would confirm this breakdown. And the equal leg target would put you around that $8 level for the gap fill. And longer term, we have another gap to fill down at $4. So if you're committed to playing a short play, a downside play, I should say, over the next few years, Ford is a great name to consider, especially if we get a bounce back to $12, $13, as this has immense downside of potentially 37 to 60% as well. Once again, I'm not wanting to fight the Fed. That's why all of these plays are bearish setups and not bullish setups, except for uranium. So I'm not wanting to fight the Fed this year, hence why all these setups are bearish at the current moment. Okay. Next on the list is NVDA. Now this is a potential bullish or bearish setup that we have on watch. The bearish setup is this is consistently in this big old just consolidation move down. If that's the case and this continues, we should see at minimum $97. Longer term, I am expecting a move down to around the $73 if this does continue with the bearish projection if the market does roll over. So I'm looking around that $75 to $70 range on NVIDIA for a nice potential bounce out of that zone. You also have the formation of this being an inverted head and shoulders. Once again, it would need to break this prior high to confirm this move, but it would need to break that. If that happens, then our target is 227, 231 for that gap fill and the potential of a big old bull flag breakout to the upside. So keep this on watch. It did put in a hammer on the daily, on the weekly, but it does have to break out of this for it to confirm this next move up. I still lean that we get a move down on this name to under 100 throughout 2023 and probably longer term to $75 to $70. So NVIDIA is one to watch. Yes, it can get worse. Yes, it can go lower. I know it's a semiconductor name that's been loved by so many, but it can go lower. So I'm not trying to fight the Fed, not trying to fight the trend on this until it confirms that breakout. Then we can start targeting 227. For now, this does look like it wants under 100 throughout 2023. We got a few more to touch on. We're going to touch on Apple. We've touched on this a good bit previously on streams, but we are breaking down at this current moment on the monthly. So we have started to reverse trend here on the strongest stock or the biggest holding of the S&P 500. You can see we did put a hammer candle on the weekly, which means we could see a little bit of a bounce back before further continuation. But on the daily, we do have a gap to fill at $95. And longer term, our next major support zone is around that 80 to 70 range as well. So if Apple does get very bearish, this is the same exact setup as Tesla. So we are right here on Apple. So definitely something you want to keep on watch. This is Apple's setup right there. And you can see what happened to Tesla. And it resulted in a 5% move down. So are we going to see something similar with Apple? I could very well see a move at least to 95 by March, April of next year. So definitely one to watch there. AEHR, another one of my favorite setups leading into the new year. You can see we double topped. We have bearish divergence. On the shorter term daily chart, we have a head and shoulders pattern with a following bearish pennant. So everything about this is showing reversal. We have a short-term gap to fill at 16 to 17. Longer term, we have a gap to fill down here at $3 to $4. Okay, so we are confirming that breakdown at this point. And longer term over the next year, I'm targeting under $10 on this name. So you're looking at about 50% downside. Longer term, I do think we fill our gap back down to $3, $4. So a lot of downside here on AEHR longer term, but definitely one to watch over the next year because this is a semiconductor play. A lot of tailwinds that it's currently profited off of within the semiconductor sector. And so now there's not as much of a use for AEHR as there was throughout 2022. Two more to go through. Alcoa is the next one. This is a metals play. Alcoa is currently rolling over. You can see it is working on a bear flag at the current moment. And the same thing as we talk about, we have a gap to fill down here at $15. We have a gap to fill down here at $15. We have another gap to fill down here at $8 on Alcoa. Okay, so once we get this bear flag breakdown, the equal leg target does put us around this $24 range, which is my target by year end. But longer term, we very well could see 15 to 14 on this name. So still looking pretty weak. As long as it stays within this bear flag, then this very well could roll over and has immense downside potential over the next 12 months. Last but not least, one potential setup that could be bullish or bearish. United Healthcare. Okay, United Healthcare. It is very important to see, do we break this resistance or do we break this support? It's going to be very, very important to see, but definitely something to keep on watch. This is one of Dow Jones' biggest holdings. So if Dow Jones is going to roll over, it's probably going to be led by United Healthcare. Okay, so definitely want to keep on watch for a trade either direction going into 2023. So these are the stocks that I'm personally watching that have immense upside or downside. Mostly downside given the fact that I'm not trying to fight the Fed. But we're looking for stocks that will outperform the overall market to the downside or upside. So you can see most of these names have about 30 to 50% downside potential. Some of the names to the upside have who knows how much potential, but NVDA potentially to 230, uranium potentially to back over 40. United Healthcare depends on the break, but very well could see a push to all-time highs, potentially 600 level. We'll see what happens there. But a lot of stocks to consider, a lot of stocks to watch. I'm going to be watching these throughout the whole entire year. Mercado Libre is probably one of my favorite names to watch, alongside Deere and FSLR, AEHR, and Apple. those are some of my top favorites. I'm currently in Alcoa. I'm currently looking to get in Apple, looking to get in AEHR. I am in FSLR and will be looking to get in Mercado Libre and Ford. NVIDIA, I'm not looking to get in either direction given both scenarios are potentially there, but I'll be watching to react off of those scenarios for potential entries into that name going forward. So these are the top stocks I'll be watching for 2023. I hope this gave you some value and insight into my brain and what I believe happens throughout 2023. So if you did appreciate this video, please be sure you like, comment, and subscribe on it, and I will catch you on the next one.